Hello everybody, this is Desert Wolf here. I'm doing the very first upload of a YouTube video looking at the turn of Admiral's Edition, um, War in the Pacific. I am playing as the Japanese and my opponent playing as the Allies is encircled. He is a veteran, very experienced, very good player, giving me a lot of challenges. He recently came off his game against Raider, another really well-known player of the game. And so here we are. We're not starting at the very first of the the campaign. We're actually starting a few months in, March 27th, 1942. And so the Japanese Empire here under my control has already done quite a bit of progress, and we're actually invading India, deep inside India at the moment. Also, please forgive me if there are any technological lapses or any of that sort, because again, mentioning this is the very first time I'm doing this, so there will obviously be some hurdles, I imagine. Anyway, so moving in, the two things I'm expecting to do with this turn. The first is a battle in Manila, trying to take the city. That's going to be important. I'll talk about it a bit later some more. The other one is an attempted sweep massed sweep in India, hoping to catch his fighters up in Cap. But I don't have very high hopes of that because ever since he's brought in a lot of anti-aircraft units, he hasn't really had the pressure to put Cap up to defend his bases anymore. So he may very well elect to keep them on the field and under the protection of his anti-aircraft weapons instead. So, okay, with that, let's keep going and I'll make some commentary along the way. Taking islands in the Philippines. Audio might be loud, by the way, for the sound of the game, just because it's set. I didn't really set it up for YouTube. I'll try to do that for the next upload. Ah, looking at me. Yeah, yeah. So two hits on the Adelaide. It's very likely going to sink. It doesn't have very high durability, this light cruiser. And what's as a tip, when you see a hit, I mean, not that it matters because you're gonna see the results very quickly, but when you see an engine hit on the first torpedo, that means it's very likely you might see additional hits, especially if you're launching 6 torpedoes. So when I saw that first torpedo hit and inflict engine damage, there's always a chance that it's fog of war, but unlikely in this case. That's really raised the risk to the ship of another hit. So, anyways, Adelaide is going to go down, I believe, and that would be the 16th Allied cruiser sunk in this campaign so far. I'm just going to skip through here. Okay, so context behind this is that he's holding Darwin and he's trying to reinforce Darwin with supplies. It's harder to do it via the overland routes because of supply difficulties over the low supply draws that Daily Waters and Catherine have, especially, and Terrence Creek down here. So he's been sending single ships, blockade runners, which are much harder to actually engage via air power. This is all covered by Netty, which is Betty and Nell bombers, but they really have a hard time engaging or electing to engage single civilian vessels. So he's been running blockade runners, but that's, I think, is coming to an end because I have taken Wyndham, and now I'm going to be able to stage destroyers from here under air cover, and yeah. So the days of the blockade runners into Darwin, I think, are reaching an end. As that ship sinking. That's just harassment from his cruisers. gonna skip through this. I don't think it'll sink Trusty. These transports, by the way, are empty, so it's not like it's a high risk. Just returning them to Singapore. They have previously delivered forces to Calcutta. More blockade runners. Okay. Unfortunately, his cap is not up, so that's what you're seeing here. You're going to see a lot of sweeps go in, and yeah, they're going to be hitting nothing, which unfortunately means that, yeah, given that there's a lot of fighters flying and that's extended range, probably going to have some ops losses more than the usual, but that's okay. It's not going to be a big deal. So what's happening in Clunkery is I built up Morning Island, I believe it's called, and I'm using it to stage attacks against the Australian heavy industry. And so what's happening here is I am alternating bombings and sweeps. I'm staying very unpredictable because in case he brings up fighters and tries to challenge my bombing raids, he's going to have a hard time knowing when it's going to be bombing raids and when it's going to be sweeps. So that's the psychological game that we keep playing with each other. His own sweeps, he's being very careful and alternating his sweeps as well. Otherwise, if he gets into a predictable routine, it's going to be very easy for me to ambush him, so he's being smart about it. So Ledo is being besieged by small Japanese units and just has a 221st Group RAF, but that's enough to prevent me from taking it. So I'm bringing a Naval Guard unit to reinforce and take the base, and that will be very handy because Ledo produces fuel, which would be used to supply my heavy industry in China, in India rather. So what's happening here is I'm basically trying to clear up some Chinese forces that are on my supply routes. They're not actually blocking the supply, but they do kind of take up the bandwidth of Japanese forces that I had to keep behind to garrison or to keep the supply routes open. So just clearing them up. It's okay, even if they're respawning in Chongqing, that's not a problem. Chongqing is already at stacking limits anyways, and they're going to respawn without any artillery, so I would rather have them there than taking up the limited space in Chongqing than other forces with artillery, so absolutely fine. Okay, so hitting ports here, just trying to do recon by fire in case he has like ships hanging out or hiding away. The idea is I didn't recon before I bombed because if I recon, he's going to know I know his ships are there. So sometimes I like to just do recon by fire and just hit in case there's something there that he thinks I don't know is there, but I'll find out through the bombing. Alright, so this is preparatory bombing of Manila's garrison before the attack. This is pretty decent. 6-9, yeah, so... Just skipping ahead. Yeah, okay, so this is a good one. 48 disabled non-combat squads. staging his own raids. He's trying to basically have Japanese forces here, and he's trying to attack them or drive them back. But they're in a good terrain. I'm not worried about them, and they should be able to hold. This is 6th Australian Division trying to move in here. I'll talk more about this at the end of the turn, just to outline my strategy a bit more. For now, we can keep going with the replay. So what's happening here is I took the Aleutians up to Cold Bay, and he's been trying to just keep me held up here by bombing with his fortresses, keep the air bases low, the forts low. It's just harassment raids really. I'm not bothered by it. I have an A unit there. It's occasionally knocks out the B-17, but very rarely. And since I don't really have any major plans to move forward from Cold Bay, I'm happy for him to keep doing this. Really doesn't change much in my calculations. So bombers arrived before the sweeps. So if I had put up cap here, I would have had a really good day shooting down Allied bombers. But so he got a bit lucky there. But you know, there was no way for me to be certain that he was gonna send bombers here and not sweep, so that's why it's just all about trying to predict what the other side is going to be doing the next turn. Yeah, those late sweeps. A blockade runner. Or recon by fire. So with Norfolk Island, it's basically the opposite of Cold Bay in the Aleutians. He's trying to build up this base, and which is pretty close to me, and I'm just keeping it suppressed. Alright, land combat phase is coming up. Let's see how I do. So I'm just going to skip ahead here and we'll see the result. Okay. So, the result is good. I didn't take the base. I wasn't expecting to take the base, but the result is good. Wait until things calm down a bit. Because I think my sound is behind. Okay, so Japanese engineers reduce fortifications to 1. That's good, but what's even better is that assaults is also reducing fortifications to 1. That means that it's a true 1. When if engineers reduce fortifications by themselves, generally you can actually repair to the second, whatever the next stage of fortification is, faster than if you reduce both to 1. So looks like they're on the last legs. There's a leader bonus here, which, given at the start, the leaders of the allies here in Luzon are not great. He probably replaced some leaders. Experience is low, no surprise there. Terrain is good, no surprise there. Supply again reinforces the theory that Luzon is generally running low on supplies. Although I don't think that's necessarily the case with Clark at the moment, because he may have just stockpiled supplies. Clark. Okay, so losses. Pretty good. 201 disabled. Pretty high disablement, but no surprise. I'm attacking here against a substantial force. Destroyed devices, destroyed squads are pretty low, which is fantastic. Generally, that's really the one that's important. You want to avoid that over the long term because that's where the VPs are going to be counted. These repair, these are gone. VPs are added to the enemy score. So, pretty happy with the results from the casualties. And over here, these are from the 2 tank units, which I noticed took the brunt of the attack, which is pretty good. And this is decent as well. So I'm happy with this. I think I can take this maybe next turn. Not next turn, rather. I'm probably going to give them a turn or two to rest up, and then the next attack, hopefully, we'll be able to take the base. And I'll keep the bombing up as well. So yeah, that's how you read this. Just pushing back some Chinese forces. Okay, so I brought up the Imperial Guards Division to Madras, just kind of like keep these units bottled up there and see what I'm facing. I'll talk more about India at the end of the replay, but that's what's happening. Fifth Division recon by fire. 7th Armored Brigade is a good unit, lots of tanks. So even though I have a substantial advantage here, it's going to be something I have to think about if I want to do an attack or not. We'll see. That's the Allies. This is kind of their main force concentration right now. It's the 18th Division hanging around here with lots of supports and the 17th Indian Brigade. Yeah, I'll come back to all of this and discuss at the end of the replay. So Japanese paratroopers doing excellent work in India. Basically, what the paratroopers are there for is to allow me to leapfrog enemy bases and basically take bases deep inside the enemy's lines and rail in forces. Take advantage of the Indian rail network, and basically that just allows you to move much faster in India if you have your paratroopers there and you use them effectively. So that's what's been happening. I invaded India on February 1st, 1942, and basically it's 2 months in, and I have captured most of India that I want to capture. I think I haven't made a complete decision to where I'm going to be stopping, and that depends on the enemy's moves as well. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the progress there. Okay, so big picture. Let's start with the intel screen. Ops losses are low for the Allies. No surprise, they did not really have that much enemy air activity. A bit higher for me, and I mentioned why. Doing a lot of bombings, a lot of sweeps. Higher than the usual, but that's okay. Here, 2 Oscars, that's probably from the mass sweeps over India. This is just recon and bombing of Manila. And this is the plane that the Allies lost. They lost the Catalina. General picture, where we are right now, almost 4-1, which is auto victory score level at the end of 1942. So as you can see, very decent progress there. I've also got really good scores from bombing Australian industry for strategic losses. Happy with ship loss ratio, happy with, maybe even very happy with the army loss ratio, happy with aircraft production, almost double, sorry, not production, but rather points lost. So that's the general picture, and strategy-wise, so let's look. Pacific is on a defensive footing at the moment. I took all of this rather early, and so What you see here is this is my main line of defense, and Suva is also being held by us, by the Japanese, but it's not something I will fight tooth and nail for. It's just really delaying action there, to be honest. But yeah, pretty happy. He's skirmishing. Sometimes he bombards and stuff, but nothing too serious at the moment. Um, the SRA is basically all completely captured except for Luzon. Luzon is important because I I I need to bolster my strategic reserves, and I have, let's see, one, two, three, four, five divisions here, um, and those divisions are going to be freed up once I take Manila and potentially even Clark. But I mean, I can always bottle up the remaining forces in Clark. That's not a problem. The reason why I didn't put the units in Clark here while I'm about to take Manila is simply because if I do that, these forces will surrender instead of retreat to Manila, to Clark. I don't want to do that at this stage because I want these battered forces to retreat to Clark and continue eating his supply. And besides that, they'll also overstack Clark for the turns that they are in Clark. So it's just some logistics tactics that I'm using, and it usually plays out really well. These forces in Clark, three of these divisions are actually all from China. And just to briefly talk about that, so if you do really well in China, which I have done in this game, what happens is you can start extracting Chinese divisions from China, which is more beneficial than extracting them from Manchuria because essentially you can buy them out much cheaper. You're going to extract Japanese divisions in China that have seen a lot of actions. They may have a lot of disablements, and so that's what happened here. All these divisions suffered significant disablements. I was able to buy them out very cheaply, took them to the home islands and other really well supplied bases, and saw those disablements being repaired very quickly. And now they're back on the front line fighting to take Manila. So that's the whole idea behind that. I actually haven't bought out any Japanese divisions from Manchuria at this stage, even though it's March 28th, and that's why, because doing well in China allows me to buy out Japanese divisions very cheaply, and thus bolster my unrestricted forces available for campaigns elsewhere. China doing really well. Took all this industry, freed up this line, pushed over here all the way to Urumqi. Probably have to wait. Let's see, 4 units. Yeah, just 2 armored cars here. They could go and take Wasu and Kashgar while I wait for reinforcements to arrive to take Urumqi. These are just out of supply Chinese units that are battered. This line is still open, supplying my forces in Chongqing. I am sending out my armor to mop up some more because I still have to wait anyways for additional forces to arrive and for the besieging force of Chongqing to repair its disablements from the last attack where I knocked out Chongqing sports from 65. So that's China and doing really well there. Burma is all captured, heading towards the last base up, the last couple of bases up here. His remaining forces, including the 17th Division, which I think is over here now, is around Lashio. And finally, India. India is the main second phase offensive sector. I have cut off Indian forces over here, and I have placed Neti bombers at Bellary, and soon we'll place them at Salem, basically taking control of this area and preventing him from being able to extract these forces. And so they essentially trapped him. It's just a question of eventually bringing in forces to liquidate them. Overall doctrine overall approach that I'm doing in India is what one could call modified deep battle doctrine, modified deep battle Soviet doctrine. I'm pursuing a broad approach to tie up his forces against mine, and then maintaining an operational reserve to use against the weak points that I detect once I make contact with the enemy. So, given that I have a preponderance of forces relative to his, quantitatively and qualitatively, in most cases, this is a good approach to use here. So 18th British Division is stuck here. He can't rail it out because Japanese forces are present in the same hex. That means to move elsewhere, it's going to take a while. So closest is Nagpur, but that's already 5 days, and he will have to leave this weekend and under threat. This is 6th Australian Division. That's another one that's kind of out of the loop here. As you can see, this allows me to use the internal rail, use my operational reserves, and strike where I need to. What I'm detecting is this is the best approach at the moment. So that's where I'm leaning towards. Um, and yeah, he's over here. He has an American regiment. He's trying to bring in Allied forces, Allied reinforcements as quickly as possible. So it is a bit of a race to see who's able to bring as many forces as possible to either reinforce the defense or, in my case, to keep achieving these breakthroughs. So that's where we are right now. Yeah, pretty confident so far. Um, I just need to basically free up more forces, and that's what the whole Philippines operation is about. Once I capture Manila, lock down Clark, take it or not take it, it's not really a problem. I'm happy to keep those forces besieged there. I can free up these forces and send them either to India or to other fronts. And in the meantime, I can also keep focusing on buying up Japanese divisions from India because that's somewhere where I don't need as many forces anymore because I have largely achieved, penetrated shrinking, and this will be mostly an armor artillery operation to take these remaining bases. I don't think I'm actually going to buy any Japanese divisions from Manchuria for many months to come, just because I have the opportunity to keep focusing on drawing forces down from China, which is not going to be always the case for games. Obviously, you have to do really well in China to be able to do that. But that's, again, one of the big advantages of being able to do well in China. So I'll leave it there. Happy to answer any questions, whatnot. Just hit me up. Thank you guys for listening, and yeah, thanks.